Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Go Coffee podcast. That's what we think we're going to call it. We have a couple episodes out already, so you can check those out on YouTube. Today, we are joined by our coffee roaster, which I'm super excited about because there's a lot to share, a lot of information. And Mike has been monumental in helping us open Let's Go Coffee because you loaned me a brewer, AirPots, and helped me navigate a lot of the beginning path. So
I'll never forget the day we met Mike Adams.
Inspections,
yes. Health department, coffee knowledge. I'll probably never forget the day that you gave me a whole bunch of free coffee to bring home and try it and be like, let me know if you like it. And I came home and we both brewed it. We're like, wow, we've never had coffee that tasted like this before.
Never.
And so from that day on, we only drink Firehouse coffee unless we are out and about. But nothing compares to Mike Adams.
Let's go. We'll clap.
Well, stop. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about this because this is officially my first podcast.
There you go. Welcome to the club.
It really,
welcome.
Is. I mean, I've done a ton of interviews with stuff like 69 News and stuff, but I'm a little bit of a podcast kind of nerd because I love watching podcasts, and to be a part of one is kind of like super exciting. So thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for being here. So before we jump in, I like to who you are because I want to get into all that. I want to give people, because sometimes when I watch podcasts and I know the podcast people, but I don't know their guest, I like to kind of get the context. So I would like to hear from your perspective genuinely, because I know our story. I remember the day she came home and she's like, I met this guy named Mike and he gave me this coffee.
But that's part of the story. I mean, that's part of it.
I'd like to kind of hear your side of it. Like one day
I walked into Firehouse Coffee.
Right? And so just to give them a little context of your perspective on it, and how the part that you've played, not just in the beginning, but all the way up until now. And then obviously I want to get into a little bit your background and all these things. But what's your memory of first memory?
I do remember meeting Mandy I remember the whole encounter. And, to call it innocence is probably maybe a general term that, you can use for a lot of things, but it was a very innocent conversation. You had a passion to do something, and you weren't quite sure of the knowledge. And what I connect with on that is I was there. I had a passion, I had an idea, to do something. And, they say it all the time. You surround yourself with good people, and that's what makes things happen. And I just said that about my business today, about my billing, my accounting. I mean, I have the guy who's helping me now, who really kind of came in, had a good understanding of what needed to be done, and he did it where I had other people doing it and it just was bad. But so Mandy came in and she really had the passion, and what I really did was I asked you a bunch of questions, if you remember, what do you know about coffee? What do you know? What kind of coffee do you want to serve? And you didn't know. And, we really kind of broke it down as to what you wanted to see in that business.
Yeah.
And I mean, I seen your vision. And I think when we started that, it was really kind of just really understanding a baseline knowledge of what's your vision. And I'm very passionate about this. I love business. I love coffee, obviously. And, when you came in, I think I felt that from you. And I think that was the most impressionable thing I remember about her, because it was the innocence. I want to do this. And I seen the passion. And, I tried to do whatever I could to help you along the way. And it's weird because if you talk to other people, I have other people right now that are starting up coffee trailers and cafes, and I'm in the same boat with them. And it's almost like it's an unwritten script for a program, how to help somebody start a cafe.
Yeah.
But somehow or the other, I pull it off, and these people come out with good products and good brands. And
I I thought it was really cool too when I remember in the first conversation saying I want to start a coffee trailer, and you said I'm actually doing one too. So we almost simultaneously did them at the same time.
Yes, that's true.
Very differently.
Yeah, very different.
You had your vision of the little fire truck thing, and then I was starting the trailer. So like we were kind of bouncing ideas back and forth a few times on like what are some things that'll work and different ideas and stuff. Right. Obviously yours is a much larger production, and that was intentionally done. So it was just kind of unique. You're like, yeah, I think these are going to start popping up all over the Lehigh Valley. And here we are. There's one's popping up all the time now. Well, it is funny because I seen a vision for this. And I actually, if you remember, and I'm not sure if you were in the conversation, I know you were, but I remember telling you when you first came in, I said, they're not very popular right now. Nobody's doing them. Mm-hmm. But I said, there's a definite market for it, but they have to be done well. They have to be classy. It has to have good coffee. There's certain things that I felt that you need to do with a coffee trailer, and then there's things that I was like, you don't want to get involved in that. Right. And I think you pretty much did some of the same things that I did, and I don't want to get too carried away with like specifics, but I know for a fact there's specific things that you don't want to do in coffee trailers, and we talked about that. But I think you have a really neat little coffee trailer. I've seen it at the Bacon Festival, and I've been obviously a little bit of a part of that, but I think you hit a home run with that. Thanks, appreciate that.
I think it's so cool because I remember when she came home, having met you. Got some coffee. We tried it. We talked about it. And obviously, both of us were in new territory. We don't know coffee that well. We love it, but we don't know how to sell it and the business, all these things. But you, your belief in her / us, whatever. But mainly with her at the time was really inspiring in a way. I think back to that all the time. And on top of that, my biggest thing with Mandy, I said, if you're going to get into business, whatever you're selling, it has to be good. Otherwise, you shouldn't sell it. It has to be, the coffee has to be good. And so I was kind of where do you go in my head? I don't know anything. Right. Where do you go for good coffee?
Right.
We're in Pennsylvania. Is there good coffee here? I think so. There should be, right? I don't know. And so when she came home and brought your coffee home, I was like, this is good. Yeah. Does everybody think this is good? I think so. I was like, is it just us right now? Because we're coming from K-cups, I don't know. And so it was just an interesting thing. But your belief in her and us at the time, and then just
me all misty.
Yeah. Well, just your knowledge of it was very inspiring and it made me believe in us because I was like, okay. Yeah. And it to this day, some people ask me where do you get your beans from? And it's I can confidently say where it's from, who's doing it, everything behind it, because I believe in it because we're drinking it right now and it's really good. So I don't know. I thought that it spoke to you, which brings me to back to your background. Yeah. How did this start? How did this become who are you? What do you do? Because obviously coffee's just a secondary thing. So
where'd you come from?
Where did I come from? Well, I just want to piggyback something on this
please, by all means.
When you said that about I believed in Mandy and you guys. Sure. One thing that I did when I gave her coffee, I said, try other coffee roasteries. Do not just take my word. Don't come to me because, I have a big red building. Go to other roasteries. And I'm not sure if she did or not, but I tell every single person that. I have everybody that comes in and they want to buy wholesale. And, I have a wholesale person now, Brianne, who she's doing a phenomenal job. And my concept is, I want to be a team, and that's, we call ourselves the Bean Team. And, that I've said several times, you're part of the Bean Team. So it's about us. When you come on board and you buy our coffee, you're part of the Bean Team. And I wanted to make sure that, we were the perfect fit for you, because there are places that I don't want to sell coffee to. I just had a lady that I'm no longer selling coffee to because maybe the way she prepared it, maybe the way the store looked, I don't want my Bean Team sign a part of that. And so I'm pretty selective on who I'm bringing in too. So it goes both ways.
I was going to say rightfully so, because the way we prepare your coffee is a direct representation of your brand and your coffee. Absolutely. So it is important to pick. And I think I appreciate that. You're not just buying coffee off the shelf.
Right.
And anybody's making it however they want. And you're like, oh, I have this brand of coffee that I just picked up at the grocery store. It's a very specific coffee.
Yep.
Right.
Made a specific way. and then you help us learn that process too, which is helpful.
Yeah, the knowledge stood out to me. Like once we got in with you, and I was like, whoa, like this guy knows more. So that was number one, but that was actually number two. Number one was really like you just said, like go try other roasters. She did have conversations with some others, and nobody was as hospitable as you were.
Yeah,
not many people were very nice actually. Like we won't name names or anything, but we just
Well, why don't you name one or two? I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
He's like, go ahead.
Well, and I think it's, again, so I'll tell you how it started. So I work on a medical helicopter here in the Lehigh Valley. Right. I'm a paramedic on medevac. And, it started really for me as kind of an accident. I was in the hospital cafeteria, and it was many years ago, so the hospital cafeteria was a lot different. And they had one huge brewer that basically brewed coffee for the entire hospital. And went down that morning, and I would normally have a cup of coffee, and the coffee brewer was dead. It wasn't working. So, all right, I had orange juice, and, I'm sitting there, but all the people that were coming through the cafeteria were just bitching and complaining. And like, I this is ridiculous. I was like, man, everybody's like really testy about this. And we're sitting there, and we wound up that we used to do IVs on the different floors for really difficult IV sticks. And I went up and I walked into the patient's room, and the nurse came in, and she's like, by chance were you down in the hospital cafeteria? Did they get their coffee maker fixed yet? Like, we're dying up here without our coffee. And I left the patient's room after getting the IV, and I said to my partner who I was with, I was like, I said, I can't believe how this coffee machine is affecting everyone in this hospital. Like, this is crazy. And people are like trying to get somebody to run to Dunkin' Donuts. And, this is years ago. I'm in this now almost 20 years.
Right.
So it's funny because we were having lunch, and he was a pilot. His name was Bob Carmen. He since has passed away. But he said to me, whoever makes a coffee brand centered around healthcare or the fire services is going to be a genius, because ultimately, look how many healthcare workers, firefighters, paramedics, nurses, doctors drink coffee. And I was like, holy shit. Like, that is genius.
The light bulb moment.
Yeah. So it was weird because we had a flight then, and we were going on a call, and I was in the air, and it was a bad car accident, and we got a report that they were starting CPR. And first thing I'm thinking of, like, coffee, like, what could I brand this? Like, how could I create coffee around CPR? And we got canceled on the flight. They said that unfortunately the patient was going to go by ground. Patient had died. And I know nothing about the patient, to be perfectly honest with you, but I kept thinking, like, coffee. So I came up with Colombian Premium Roast, CPR. And that was my first name that I came up with. And then it was within a couple of days, it started clicking, like, Colombian Premium Roast. I really like that. And then we had a doctor, she's a trauma surgeon, and she is the nicest lady ever. I haven't seen her in several years. She's since retired, but we used to call her Trauma Mama. And on a Friday and Saturday night, she'd be on call, and it was every time she was on, we were busier than heck. And I thought, I should name a coffee after her, Trauma Mama. Well, it was interesting because I went on vacation, and I saw Bahama Mama. And I was like, Bahama Mama, what's in that? And I looked at the ingredients, and I was like, you know what? I got to do something with rum, a rum coffee. And that was the start of it, really. And,
It's so funny because they're still two of your most popular ones.
They are.
Today.
And I truly believe the names are so important with our brand. Like, when I first started this, I was called the Java-matic. And the Java-matic. And I did that for years, but I was selling a Firehouse blend, I think I was calling it Firehouse. I think it was Firehouse Blend or Firehouse Coffee, and everybody was calling me up because I was the Java-matic, calling me to fix their espresso machines. And I was getting more phone calls about espresso machines than you can imagine to fix them, because they thought I fixed coffee machines.
Oh, okay.
And then I decided to change the name. But so I had outsourced all my coffee roasting for years with a company, and it kind of got to a point where the person that owned the coffee company was trying to have me take it over and buy it, and he wanted more than what the business was worth. So he wound up selling it for an overpriced amount, and the people that came in basically bought it, and they kind of raised prices across the board. And it just turned out like it was a bad marriage. So I was like, it's time to get divorced. So I went home and I said to my wife, I said, either we are going to do this on our own, and we're going to do our own roasting, and I'm going to learn how to do this, or I'm giving it up. And I bought books, and I started to read tons about coffee. There's a book out there called The Coffee Bible, and I think I read it twice. And then I actually wound up finding a company in California that taught you how to roast. And I went out to California for a week, and I learned how to roast. Marcus Young, I'll give him so much credit because he worked his magic and taught me all these crazy things. I'll even tell you, it was Boot Coffee Company out in California. And what I did after that was I actually went and I started to visit different roasting facilities to learn like what coffee roasters they use and their different techniques. I was fascinated by people and the people that would teach me their techniques and their things. And I really kind of, I learned a lot just from reading. Like I was addicted to Roast Magazine. It's a roaster's magazine. And, I really learned a lot from that. And, it was really kind of like, it was a lot. And I did it in such a short amount of time because I really wanted to kind of break away from the guy who was roasting our coffee. But it's interesting because as I get bigger, I know now that if I get into grocery stores and I get into like the big chain markets, I'm going to have to go back to outsourcing my coffee. Now, I think there's going to be a lot more quality control. I've talked to, I was at a really big roastery just a couple weeks ago in northwestern PA, and we're getting to the point with our brand that we're going to start expanding, and I'm probably going to have to outsource if I want to get into some big chain stores with our brand and stuff like that. But it was just a lot. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It's not like I bought the roaster and then just put the beans in and it just happened. I mean, there's a lot. It's a lot of science involved.
There is a lot, which we'll get into a little bit more. I just wanted to quickly ask, because I always found it interesting. I don't know if I've ever directly asked you this. Before coffee was medevac, right?
Right.
Or
right.
Like, how did that, like, because for me, like, I've always, I'm driving around. Oh, there goes the helicopter.
Yeah, we always say, hi, Mike.
Yeah, nowadays I'm like, oh, there's Mike, jokingly. Obviously,
well,
it could
I'm
be
always waving back.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why we say hi. We're like waving
Mike's
from
like,
the
you're
road.
not waving to me? He's like, I'm waving to you.
Yeah.
No, and I always, but how did that, like, if I may, this quick offshoot, like, how did that become?
How did I become a paramedic?
Yeah, like how and why? Like, it's an interesting
I lived in Fleetwood, right across from the fire station. And I tell you, it was amazing because I would always see these cars come in, the guys go running in, jump on the fire truck, and pull out and leave. And I really just got a passion for that. Like, I just connected with those guys at the fire station, and I was involved in in the fire company from, I was probably at the age of like 14, and calls would come in and I'd go over and open the doors so the fire trucks could go out and the guys come running in, get in faster. But I was so involved in the fire services, and then obviously we were on bad accidents, and medevac was fairly new. I mean, like, I joined in 1980. I joined the ambulance in 1986 in Fleetwood, and medevac was brand new to the area. They only had the medevac helicopter started in 1982, so it was only 4 years old. My first helicopter landing, I stood there and I was like, man, I want to do that. I really want to do that. Like, that is, and it wasn't just the helicopter. It wasn't the ride. The people knew what they were doing. Like, I still remember the crew who I saw get off the helicopter, and I was privileged because I actually worked with them for years then. I wound up getting, I got a job as a dispatcher for medevac in 1990. And I was at the hospital at Lehigh Valley. And from there, I went to paramedic school. And in, I think it was 1998, I got hired part-time on medevac. And to fly. 98 or 99, I started to fly. So it was really like I climbed up the ladder there. It's like but I was very passionate about that. And, it's weird because like you always hear that somebody has a second career in life. And this is my second career. Like I always thought my whole life, I'm going to be known for the helicopter. Like everybody will know me that I was a paramedic on medevac. My friends and stuff, they don't even... Are you still doing that helicopter thing, or are you, Yeah. So coffee has really dominated my life. I mean, it really has taken over, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next, when how long I'm there and how long I stay. But
I'm sure you have a lot of stories with that, and that I'm sure that has a shelf life though. Like it does. It wears on you. It has to wear on you. Consistently seeing the worst situations. That can happen.
Yeah. Because if they're calling you guys.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't even, I have like a huge amount of respect for like first responders all around in general.
Yeah.
I've always had that. And I always thought to myself, I'm like, man, if they call those guys, it's not good.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you've seen some things, and it's just like, I don't know. It's almost like a mystical thing that I don't like. I'm like, I wonder who those guys are on there. Now we know one.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because a friend of mine just retired a while ago, maybe a year ago. And I've said to him, and now that I'm kind of coming to the end of the career,
sure.
I've said to him, it's pretty amazing what we do. And it's pretty amazing that I'm a part of the system that I'm a part of. And I'm not just talking the helicopter. I'm more into the medical stuff. So like when we pick somebody up that's having a heart attack in Schuylkill County, and we fly them to Lehigh Valley Hospital, and we land on the helipad, we come through elevator doors, and we have security standing there waiting to put us in the elevator. And we push a button and we get up to the cath lab, how we transition over to the cath lab, how fast a doctor can come in and do a cardiac catheterization and take somebody with a massive MI and put a stent in, and they're pain-free in 30 minutes. I mean, it is truly amazing.
Yeah.
It's a system, and I've been a part of this system for so long, and it's amazing what we do. It really truly is, and I could not be more proud to have been a part of that. And
it's amazing, and it's also just something that majority of people that exist will never experience that. So it is a very niche. I mean, I don't even know what the percentages of how many people drink coffee. Like ridiculous. So to say like, oh, I own a coffee shop. Oh, that's cool. People usually are like, wow, that's so awesome. That's super fun. I mean, everybody can kind of relate to that in a way, as far as like, oh, I like a cup of coffee or whatever. Medevac, you cannot. That's not an easily relatable thing. You can't even really put your mind in that position. Yeah. So it is like a very niche career path, which. A lot of respect for that too. So.
Yeah, but it's interesting because the coffee business, when people come in, we have a vibe at Firehouse Coffee, and like my Google reviews say it all. Like friendly staff, great coffee. I tell my staff all the time, like it's all good. Like it's just coffee. Like nobody's dying here.
Right.
Trust me.
Right. Like I know. I've seen some bad shit over the years. Like you spill some beans, it's all good.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to get upset over this. So, I mean, like we do. Like I have an unbelievable team that I'm very proud of, and I think we have a lot of fun, and we have stressful days, but like our stressful days are nothing compared to a helicopter day. And
he always says today's someone's worst day of their life somewhere in the world.
Right.
So
it's true.
So that's amazing. First of all, thanks for all you do with that.
Please,
so cool.
Thank you.
Also, side note to that, you do have a really awesome team, because there's nobody that I can come in there that I don't feel comfortable talking to.
Good.
How's it going?
Yep.
How's life? I know a bunch of stuff going on in their lives.
Yep.
Like,
and Linda, if you're watching, you're fired. I have a lady
Poor
who
Linda.
every once in a while just be like, Linda, you're fired. I love Linda.
And the funniest part is she's probably like one of the most loyal ones.
She is. I'm telling you, I have the best team ever.
You do have a great team.
But I went away on a vacation, and she was the one that basically said that she's changing the name and she's changing all my blends.
Your April Fool's joke.
They act all innocent, but they're shady. They're sketchy.
You got to watch out for some of them. They are great, but anyway, continue.
They are great. No, so I was just we'll pick up from there, because
it's damn good espresso.
It's good espresso, right? I wonder who makes it.
So Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
We'll switch over to that.
It is
We'll switch over to that one next time.
Yeah, right. Perfect. So, okay. So anyway, so medevac, coffee, California, come back.
Keep it coming.
Firehouse Coffee.
Yeah.
Great staff. Roasting away.
But like, I guess like because a lot of people will probably be like, oh, I'm sure not a lot, but there are people who like want to be a coffee roaster,
Sure.
right? And they think like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
Just like anybody else would say, like, I could own a
Yeah.
pizza shop. I could do blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
whatever. You did it. You are doing it. It's happening.
Right.
Like, there's real employees. There's real revenue. There's real products being sold. Like, you're doing it, like,
Yeah.
for real, How did that happen? It's so funny because, like, they always say, like, and you can probably relate to this as an entrepreneur, business owner. There's, like, the thing you're selling, the product or the service that you may love or, I'm sure a lot of people get into pizza. They love pizza. They want to make pizza, good pizza, whatever.
Yeah.
But does that guy know how to do his taxes? Does that guy know how to do
Right.
business or employee or whatever?
Yeah.
So my point is like maybe that transition point of like one day you found out coffee was a need, which we all knew, but like, and then you transitioned it to like, I'm going to do this. And then now, like, I guess just take us through that little gap. Like,
So that is a really interesting thing because I really didn't know. Like I didn't know like what I wanted to do. Like I actually had thought about opening up a drive-through coffee shop. I did.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I did. And I actually had a location in Fleetwood. And I kind of got screwed over by the landowner and it was kind of weird how it happened. And I think the first impression that I remember was I was dating someone and we went somewhere and I was introduced to good coffee. So that was really the key. I mean, we were in Doylestown, not Doylestown, New Hope. And there was a place that was selling a bag of, I think it was Sumatra coffee. That was my first coffee that I really, really started to enjoy. And we bought this bag of coffee and we bought a grinder and we really enjoyed it. It was like, wow, I like Sumatra coffee. And I felt all big because I knew what coffee that I liked. How many people knew what Sumatra was?
Yeah, not many people know that word. So
and and then it was weird because we'd go places and we'd buy different coffees. Like I remember one time we bought an Ethiopian coffee, and I was like, "Wow, this doesn't taste as good as the Sumatra." We kind of started to learn like what coffees we liked and what coffees we didn't, and I think we were kind of going different places, and we were actually looking for gourmet coffees, and we kind of transitioned from buying Wawa coffee to like buying coffee and brewing it in the morning, and I think that was really the start of it. But I was still thinking at the time I want to open up like a drive-through coffee shop. Fast forward to my wife. My wife kind of shared some of the coffee excitement with me, if that makes sense. And my wife did not really like coffee when we first got together. And I started to bring more coffee home, different kind of coffees. And she really started to get on board with it. And I remember watching, there was a TV show, it used to be called The Big Idea on CNBC, and it was a guy by the name of Donnie Deutsch, and he used to have these people come on that had ideas, and I still had this idea in my head about, CPR and Trauma Mama coffee, and it was weird because I realized at one point, like, I don't want to open up one coffee shop. I want to be big. I want to be really, really big. And at that point, I was watching the show and I kind of thought, I don't want to be a coffee shop. I want to be a coffee brand. I need to figure this out. And I started creating a label and I started doing this like back work. And this is a true story. And it's kind of funny. Like my wife would be laughing at me right now. I was always a money guy where I wanted to pay my mortgage off. I wanted to pay my car off, and I'd get these damn flyers in the mail, like open up a credit card, for $5,000 and 0% interest for 12 months. And I literally said to her, we were on vacation, and I said, I'm thinking of opening up a credit card for $5,000 and seeing if I can turn that $5,000 and pay it off and have a profit on it. And I did. And that's what happened. It started out with a credit card. And
you never know what that junk mail can lead to.
You never know what that junk mail can lead to. And it was weird because I went to different coffee places to find a roaster to roast for me because I didn't really want to roast. I did not want to roast. I didn't. I actually just wanted to be a brand of coffee, market it, and I didn't want to roast. And because of my bad marriage that I had with the roaster, I literally was kind of forced into doing it. And I was scared. I thought I'll never be able to figure this out. I don't know if I can roast good coffee. But I will tell you, it was the best decision that I ever made in my life because, my coffee today is, I feel, completely different than the people that roasted for me. And I feel I have my own unique roasting style. Mm-hmm. And I will bring, and I did it with you. We came in and we cupped, and any coffee roastery that's out there, if you're a coffee roaster or you want to become a coffee roaster and you're not cupping your coffee, even on a regular basis, you are not doing your customers or yourself any good because coffee changes and you need to make sure that you're cupping and you're providing people the best coffee that you can. And we brought you in and we roasted with you guys and basically created a blend that was your own unique blend with how you liked it. And we changed it a couple times. And even I think recently we changed
the dark roast
a little bit. And but I have to say you have good coffee. You really have good coffee.
I have a good coffee roaster, so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
But I mean,
we'll connect you at some point.
You were a part of that. And I mean, you've seen my process. You did that. You worked with me on that. And that's the stuff people don't see because we spent hours doing that.
Yeah, and it's the personal touch, but it's also too, I think, the consistency. And we talk about that a lot with business too, is the fact that every single time I get coffee, the beans look exactly the same. It tastes the same. And so you roast over and over and over and over and over. And the fact that it's the same every time you order that kind, whatever you order, is what is impressive.
Well, that's a compliment to me.
Yeah.
And I take that as a compliment because that is, we have a computer program that monitors temperature, time. I mean, I can do everything in roasting, even control the drum speed, how fast the drum goes. And, every coffee is unique. You have a coffee in Sumatra that I was talking about, like, Indonesia has a lot of volcanic ash in the soil. So that has a little bit more of an earthy tone to it. And bean density, the bean, you don't want to roast a bean where the outside gets done before the inside. And, I talk a lot when people come to the shop and I explain to them, how beans, the gases get trapped inside the bean. They absorb the heat, they're endothermic, and then the bean cracks open and then gases come off the bean. It's exothermic at that point and it's actually giving off heat. There's so many aspects to coffee roasting. And I'm a geek with it. I love it. And I love to explain it to people that they understand. Like I can tell them when, like one of my comments is that when it's exothermic and the gases are coming off, it's like roasting a marshmallow. You're roasting the marshmallow, you go inside, you're getting another drink and you're like, I smell like the campfire because it stains, those gases can stain the bean. And same thing happens when when you're roasting a marshmallow, same thing happens when you're roasting coffee. It's same thing.
So it's actually so interesting. It's like a whole world. And I actually wanted to like ask you, like, for people kind of like watching, it's like you are a coffee roaster. I think majority of people, if you ask that question, like, what does that mean? They think they know what that means, but what does it actually mean? Like, what are you like? Like you what are you doing? Like, what is it?
It's so interesting because coffee roasting has become so high tech. Years ago, they basically put it into a drum and it heated up and there was nothing with, with valves and getting the gases out of the roaster. And it was a very simple process. Now it's a very complex process because you have these roasters. My roaster is called a Gießen, and it's from the Netherlands, and it has all these components on it, and it's all computerized. And it's not something where you can just drop the beans and push a button and it's going to do it. I have to program it. I have to set how fast the drum goes. I have to set how much, air we're putting through, and when the vents open, and how much heat is getting applied. It's very involved to roast a good cup of coffee. And we had this conversation earlier. There are other places that roast really good coffee. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the best coffee roaster around.
You're also not saying that you're not.
Well, I'm not. But I think really understanding coffee, and really like what I was talking about with cupping, I think cupping is the most important thing a coffee roaster can do. And what cupping really is that you have a trier, which is basically something that you can take a small sample out of the roaster. Right. You can look at it, you can smell it, you can see different times and stages where the bean is and how it's developed. And what happens is you take samples out at different time frames, and you can mark the sample times down. So every 30 seconds, over the course of 3-4 minutes, you can sample those different roasts. And then the key is you find out which one is the smoothest, which ones doesn't have as much acidity to it. And there's ways to get, I think I'm pretty well known for not having acidity in my coffee. And I have a technique that I use when I roast that I feel that gets rid of a lot of the acidity. And I hear it all the time. I can't drink any other coffee. I get heartburn, and you have no acidity. Well, that's part of the roasting process. And if a coffee roaster doesn't understand that, that's a problem. So, but when you start looking at the different elements, my Gießen coffee roaster, when I ordered it, I had specific things put on that, and I bought it brand new. It was shipped over from the Netherlands during COVID, and I tell everybody it's the Cadillac of coffee roasters, because there's so many functions that I have on that I can basically set the parameters and make sure that it's being roasted the way that I want it to. And then the consistency is I can set it up where we put the beans in, we weigh how much we put in, and it will roast the exact same way over and over and over. It's called a profile, and I can profile a bean and have it set. But one of the things that you got to remember too is sometimes profiles change. The soil of the coffee, the roots, and things change with the coffee. So you always want to consistently do cupping, and that's one thing that I do on a regular basis. I'm constantly drinking my own coffee to make sure, and I'm constantly making sure that I'm not off on something. And it's a lot, because I changed one of my coffees, actually the one that I call a bandage blend, and without getting too involved in it, I changed it, and I even told you that I changed it because I don't know, it was just I cupped it and I was like, you know what, I can do better with this. And it was good before, but it's really good now. So
I always found it to be very interesting when we did do the sampling, when we brought us in, and I saw the wheel with all the different
the colors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good thing to bring up. Yeah,
it's just interesting. And again, you're talking to someone who I have zero background. Yeah. I don't know anything about this, but I've always loved a good cup of coffee. Yeah. And I found it interesting that you actually have so much more canvas than I thought to work with. You can really taste something and be like, I kind of want to take it this direction or that direction. What if we added this and that? Then on top of all that, we didn't even get into this, but then you have your flavors.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing. So I don't know. I was curious maybe just for them to hear, but also for us, in general, how did you kind of I'm sure you've put in the reps, so to speak. I'm sure you've gone through coffee beans just to learn.
Oh yeah. So when I bought, it was funny, and with that, I'll talk about Ethiopian coffee, because Ethiopian coffee is probably one of the most dynamic coffees that I think for a lighter roast, because it really gives you different flavors that you can pull out of that. So if you roast it a certain way, some people, I roast my Ethiopian coffee more light to medium. It's on the lighter side, and you can pull out some notes of berries, blueberries, but there's no flavor added to it. It's just the normal like notes of the coffee.
Sure.
And I've historically, for some of my berry coffees, like we do a blueberry flavored coffee and we do a peach brandy flavored coffee. Historically, I have put some Ethiopian coffee in to the blends when I blend that. Now so my flavored coffee is also blended. It's not just one coffee, it's a blend that I use, and I use flavor oils. So when you talk about, how do I flavor, caramel rum creme brulee? Well, they're oils that we use to flavor. We don't use any sugars. And I work with several different oil companies that we buy different oils from. And I can mix my oils. Like I can buy an oil from one company and another oil from another company, and I can manually mix them to make the coffees that we do.
And my question for you with the oils, is that specifically for coffee? They're made specifically for flavoring coffee?
Yes, that's correct.
Because we get a lot of questions on flavored coffee. Well, how do you flavor this coffee? And the best thing we always...
Here's the train. Let me see if we can hear it.
Can't miss that one.
That's good. That was good. Because I feel like with the past few times it was closed and we're always like, oh, can you hear the train? But in the recording, you can't hear it.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, there's a train.
Anyway.
With the flavored coffees, people ask, and the best thing I always explain to them is, how you go to Wawa and you see the self-serve flavored coffees? Well, they're all black coffees too. When you go to the blueberry cobbler, they have, French vanilla, hazelnut, whatever. And I'm like, and then they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Well, they have to do it somehow too. I'm assuming it's the same type of oil process.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not, again, I don't know what they use in their process. But,
true. But they're flavoring beans is what they're doing.
I'm sure they're using oils.
So it's probably the same thing. Okay, so these oils are created to flavor coffee.
Yes.
And then you purchase them, you roast the coffee first, and then you add the oil to it afterwards.
I always like to talk about pumpkin spice, because that's like the biggest, flavored coffee. Everybody loves pumpkin spice. So, we roast a blend of coffee, and I'm not a pumpkin person. I actually hate pumpkin spice. I really do.
I actually like your pumpkin creme brulee better than your pumpkin spice.
So it's interesting. I drink pumpkin to try it, to make sure it's good. Every year, I'll have pumpkin coffee one time just to make sure that I'm on the same queue with it. But with the flavored coffees, I'm really big into, some Brazil coffee and Colombian coffee that, I can blend our coffees for the flavor. So I have what they call a flavor base. And then I add the oils to whatever my blend is that I use for the flavor base. And I think for the most part, Brazil is a really good coffee for the base, if that makes sense. And then, if I have, again, I blend my own coffee, and it's not, it would be very difficult for somebody to duplicate what I do and how I roast. But I do think that there's different coffees that can help enhance the flavor, like an Ethiopian coffee, adding that into the base, it gives it a little bit of a berry note, if that makes sense. Plus, then you add the oils. So I do things a little unconventional that maybe some roasters maybe just use one coffee to flavor. But I think for the most part, for me, it's really about, you got to start with good coffee. And for a lot of other people, I buy a higher end coffee, even for flavored coffee, that I will blend, where I think other people will buy cheaper coffees and think that the oil just will take care of the flavor. And I don't believe in that. The stuff that I buy is pretty high end.
So the other question that I get a lot too in the cafe is your coffee organic? And what the difference is between organic coffee and not organic coffee. And we've had this conversation a few times as far as like the oils make it not organic.
Right.
But high-end coffee versus organic coffee, like what would you say is the difference? Is there a difference?
So yes and no. So I mean, there's all kinds of things that it would take another podcast to really talk about all this. But I will say that, so the short answer with this is pretty simple. You have to be certified organic. Okay. So for me, I do have, and I do roast organic coffee. However, I'm not certified. So I will never, I can't say, okay, I'm an organic coffee roaster. And for the certification process and the whole, I've looked at the requirements, I just don't feel that I'm going to be able to sell that much organic coffee separate the way I already do it. And I have thought about it, and we've talked about it several times about changing some things at the roastery and becoming an organic roaster. But I think in my time that I'm doing this, I'm probably not going to go the organic route. And I think there's price differences. I think, there's all kinds of, how you import the coffee, how it's sourced, going back to the farmers. And, I am all about, being ethical and making sure that the farmers are getting their fair share and fair trade. And, but, again, I kind of feel that, I am leaving this up. I work with several importers. So my main importer who I work with, I have conversations with him all the time. And that's kind of like there's different, there's Q graders and there's all this other stuff. And, my philosophy is stick with what you're good at. I know I'm good at roasting. So I pay other people to do all that other stuff with my importers, with my Q grading, and I will pay somebody else to do that because
the reason you have to import is because coffee can't be grown in the United States.
Right. Yeah. Yes. There's like the coffee belt, which is all, you have to, if you Google it, you can, that's a whole other podcast we could talk about because that's very interesting too, because that is, I always said I'll probably be out of the coffee business and I'll be traveling to these different regions because coffee is very interesting to me. And, the whole farming process is interesting. And, another topic that we could even do sometime on a podcast is decaf, how the different methods are for decaf. And I don't really want to get into all that today because it's a lot. It's a lot. But I mean, we do all Swiss water decaf. I mean, like for you. So if anybody's watching, we don't use the chemicals. We use Swiss water decaf. So come to Mandy and drink her decaf.
We get a lot of compliments on the decaf too. So
we do.
Thank you. And I will say that that's another thing that I really focused a lot of attention to was my decaf coffee. I mean, that was a little tricky for me because I was never a big decaf guy. But I think after drinking a lot of it and working on it, I think we have good decaf.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just some people who medically can't, it's just like for whatever reason they prefer it or before they go to bed, whatever. So they'll get a lot of people that get decaf. But I agree. There's a lot of other almost potential part 2 podcast stuff we can do because there's misconceptions too. I mean, we have people who come in and they're like, "Oh, give me your hardest stuff, the darkest stuff you got." It's like, well, actually, light roast.
Most caffeinated is the lighter roast.
Right. Yeah. And people don't know. So there's just interesting stuff that I'm sure you come across all the time.
And one thing about organic, and I think it's frustrating because they have a whole list of requirements, but I have gone to roasteries and I've seen them being organic coffee roasters and they're not following the rules that they're technically supposed to. And, I'm not here to pick apart anybody else, but, I think there comes a point in time where, I have fair trade coffee. I'm working with importers. I have Q graders that, I've worked with. There's things that I think you need to focus on. Then there's things that I think that you got to let it for other sources. And, for me, I do have organic coffee. I roast organic coffee, but I don't advertise it that it's being organic. Right, but it's high-end coffee, and I'm just not organic certified.
Yeah, and then so going back to what Pablo's question was, being a coffee roaster is not just throwing beans in a roaster and hitting a button, and then out pops some beans, you bag them, label them, and you sell them.
No.
It's all the importing, which is what I always explain to people. Is a lot of people come in and they say, "Oh, do you roast your own coffee?" Well, if you just take one little look around, there's no roaster in here. Yeah. But no, because I went the cafe route versus the roasting route. Yeah. And we always say, too, leave it to the professional and stick with what you're good at. So I don't really know much about the roasting process other than what I've learned from you. Yeah. And so our position in it is that we purchase wholesale from you and share that in the hopes that, obviously that's business for you in aspect of either they're buying coffee from me or they're buying coffee from you, whatever they choose to do. But then, so it's the same thing. It's like you have the farmers, you have the importers, then you have the roaster, and then you have the wholesale person. So there's this whole line of this whole process that people have the misconception of how do you get coffee out of our brewers into the pots for someone to pour a cup there? Well, that's That's not just like a overnight process.
Well, I think it's a process too. Where when I was in California, I was learning how to roast. I traveled around and I went to so many different roasteries and I talked to so many roasters. And the best advice I got from a roaster was, and I said this to you several times, if you want to be a coffee roaster, be a coffee roaster. If you want to own multiple cafes, multiple mobile coffee companies, or mobile coffee trailers, do that. But you think about what you're doing here, learning QuickBooks for billing, learning this for that. Well, you throw in coffee roasting, that is a challenge in itself. And to make sure that you're consistent with it, and if you can't roast, somebody else is going to have to roast. I mean, on a large scale, we do so much volume. I mean, it's crazy how our business has grown just in the last 3 years since I've opened. And, that's one of the things where, I'm very hesitant to take on any new direction with things. Like somebody was like, oh, you should sell slushes and you should sell. I was like, no, I don't need to sell slushes. I don't need to sell, tea. I don't need to sell, anything other than coffee, because our coffee sales are, people want our coffee. They don't want my tea or my, I know there's other places are selling different things, and that's fine. I mean, maybe they need that for sales. I don't know. But for right now, I'm pretty set on we sell coffee. That's it. I
mean, the greatest people that you hear of in any industry do one thing really well.
We always use the example of one of the best pieces of advice I ever got as far as owning a business is simple is the fastest way to profitability. Simplicity is the fastest path to profitability, or something like that. Keeping it simple, which is why I love Firehouse Coffee. People will say like, oh, they don't have food and this, but you go inside and it's like, you just have coffee. Like
people are saying that?
Yeah.
No, I'm only joking.
Mike's like,
I'm sure you guys hear that all the time. Don't you have food? Don't you have tables?
We do have baked goods, and people do come in. And, it's I love how our system is. And I know there are people that, they come in, they don't know us, and they're like, oh, well, you don't have paninis, and every once in a while I'll yell, Linda, make this person a panini.
Or you're fired.
You're fired. I don't know what Linda does back there all the time,
No one really knows.
No one really knows.
She's just having her own packages. She's having this little party.
Poor
back
Linda.
there.
I love Linda. But no, I don't want to be a cafe. I don't want to do paninis. I don't want to do anything else. I want to do
it complicates
coffee.
Everything, and it just adds another element to everything. Where for same thing for us, the fastest way to success in a business with that is simplicity. So we don't want to go outside of our path of things that we do. But we always use the example of when you go to a really high-end restaurant, their menu is very small, and they only have a couple things that they're really good at. When you go to a lower-end restaurant, there's a million options. And so it's like, what's the quality of food? And they both have their place. So we always use that example with people. Like, we want to be more so that direct path of this is what our menu is. We don't really go outside of it. And I'm sorry that we don't, but there's other options. Like, we're in town here. You can go to another spot and get a different type of drink or do something. And that's fine for us. We're okay with that. So.
And if you ever visit Firehouse, you'll know that there's plenty going on. Like, you look at the menu sometimes, I'm like, wow, that's a lot. There's a lot going on within coffee. Like, it's like flavors.
A lot of options.
Dude, there's so much going on in there. So I'm like, sometimes like people are like, oh my, of course they have to insert their opinion,
And I take that as a compliment though. Like I really truly do. Like, I have a customer and she came to me and she was like, I have this one coffee that you don't make here. And she's like, I buy this all the time and I was wondering if you could do this for me. And I'm normally one of those people where I'll be like, all right, well, I can look at it and see, well, I literally have been working on this for her now for probably like the last month and a half. And it is kind of interesting because if I don't like it and it doesn't taste right and I can't get it to where I like it, I'm not going to sell it. And it's weird because I've done that several times where like I have something in the back burner and I just can't get it right. And, it's like, it's not just a matter of putting a base coffee and throwing oil in it and it's ready to go. It's just not that simple. And there are a lot of companies that's just what they do. And, I have some different variations of the flavor base that we use for different coffees. And, it's just one of those things where this specific coffee that I'm talking about, I just have not been able to get it where I want. So it's really about quality control. I am coming out with a new coffee. I can officially tell you it's probably, I would say it'll be available in like 2 weeks, but we're going to be doing a French toast.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's my little
breaking
alley.
news. Let's Go Coffee just reported.
Yeah, in 2 weeks we have French toast on tap over here.
French toast on tap.
Gluten-free.
Well, I'll tell you what, and as soon as I get it on, I will give you 5 pounds for free for any of your customers that watch the podcast.
There you go.
Only them, though.
Yeah, you have to mention it. Before we wrap up, 2 questions. I have 2 questions.
Let's hear it.
One is, what does the future of Firehouse Coffee look like? Where are we headed? Obviously, we're going to do our best to run a successful shop here and continue to support you and share about Firehouse Coffee. We love your little mobile trailer. I think you love it a little too much.
Little?
Well, no, the electric cart. The trailer itself is large, but the little cart.
I would consider it massive.
The little electric cart that my daughter likes to take little rides around on when it's out there with its flashing lights
she did,
on,
and
it is its
awesome.
own siren and everything. It's so over the top, but it's adorable. It's Mike, and so that's awesome. And you like doing that. You want to continue building, and you're I know we were talking about this before, but it was like, what's that path look like? Like what's the dream, I guess, of Firehouse Coffee?
Well, I think you're going to see some expansion over the next year and a half. Obviously I can't get too involved with what we have going on, but there's a lot of things that are in the horizon here, and I think you will see the brand grow significantly, especially in, I think the brand's going to just grow significantly in the very near future. But I think, especially and you and I've talked about this, the Berks County, the Lehigh Valley area, I think you're going to see some really big things happening. And I feel that, Let's Go Coffee is going to be a part of that.
Here comes the train again.
And
we're excited. We're happy to be a part of it.
So, I mean, it's a lot.
There it goes. 50 trains a day.
50 trains a day.
About 50 trains a day on these tracks right behind our shop here.
I don't know if we've ever shared with Mike that we do also have a dream of one day the train having to stop right here, and it's high up off the ground, so we can actually serve
the train driver a cup of coffee.
A cup of coffee.
Yeah. Well, then you need maybe like a train themed,
something.
The Emmaus drink. Or we can just put some kind of sign out there that says "Stop here when you want a cup of coffee," because they have no idea that we're right here, but on the other side, because our sign is on the other side of the building.
If they could stop,
Right.
a mile away.
But anyway, okay, Firehouse Coffee growing. Let's Go being a part of that, which we're honored to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Hoping to help you with that, and then just kind of seeing where it goes from there.
Yeah.
And like you said, this is your second career, so it's different than for. I don't even know if this is technically my second, third, fourth, fifth career. I don't know what I'm at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we're in our early stages of business versus a second career path starting later in life, and which is exciting though too, because it is something that you're passionate about, which is really cool. So so I guess we'll just have to all stay tuned. Follow Firehouse Coffee on social media.
Yeah, where can people find you?
Yeah.
The best spot.
How do people know how to find
me
Firehouse?
online? Yeah, firehousecoffee.com. And we're Firehouse Coffee Company on Facebook, and I think Firehouse Coffee Company on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And just be careful. There are some imitations out there. People like to copy us, but please come to Let's Go Coffee and drink some of their coffee too.
And then stop at Firehouse.
Yeah,
Firehouse, good spot.
Because you have other options. We have different options, and so it's like a little bit of it. They're both different vibes, intentionally that way. So, which is really cool. My last question for you.
Yes.
What does Mike Adams drink every day?
Well, that's a good question. So I like flavored coffee, but I think my favorite origin coffee is Guatemalan, and I love my Guatemalan coffee. And I think my favorite, I have several flavored coffees that I like. I like our salted caramel, and I will say that our wild rum and caramel's good. Our bourbon pecan's good.
We get a lot about the bourbon pecan. We hear about that a lot.
Love
the bourbon pecan is really good. I do like the peach brandy that I have, and I like our blueberry. And shoe fly pie. I mean, that's a really good one too.
It is a good one.
I like that
really
one.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I it's funny because like I'll just take coffee home and it kind of is whatever my wife makes. But I also I really do like when I go on vacation and stuff. We take a lot of the coffees with, and but for origin coffee, I always tell people the best coffee in the world is the one that you like.
Yeah. And
coffees have different characteristics. Like, I really do like Sumatran coffee, which is our 911 coffee. Guatemalan is our fire chief coffee. And then I do like my wife loves the Ethiopian. And I would say that I have a breakfast blend that's really good. Mm-hmm. And that has Colombian in it. And that's a really good coffee.
That's what we started with before we created ours. We started with breakfast blend.
Yeah. But no, and that's pretty much where I'm at with like what I like. But I will say this before you guys sign off: I'm very proud of both of you. I really am, because Let's Go Coffee is really a cute place. It's really neat. Has great vibe. You really do make good drinks, and it is a little bit different than what we offer because we don't offer the espresso-based drinks as of now. And but your cold. Your iced coffee is a little bit different than mine, but and I have to say that in ending, I was very blessed because I got to work with a lot of people that helped me get to where I am. And the one guy who I just will give a quick shout out to, because I think he'll watch this, at least I hope he does, is a guy that used to be one of the biggest coffee roasters in this area. His name's Randy Fazek. And he's come to the shop. He's helped me with things. I bounced so much off of him. And when I first started, I had some problems with roasting a specific coffee. I won't tell you which one, but he actually came and helped me roast, and he's kind of been a mentor to me over the last 3 years since I've been roasting on my own. And I will say that when you have these guys that have been there, done that, they really do help push your brand. And Randy's a really good guy, and I hope he always tells me that he's happy, and I may be proud, I'm not sure if you want to say that, of how I'm roasting, but I'm very proud of you guys on what you've created here. This is really nice. And I had people along my way that have helped me too, so it's kind of like you push it forward.
We greatly appreciate that. I mean, we always joke around. We always say people are always rooting for you when you need the least. Like we were, so we get people will give us praises all the time nowadays, saying like, "Oh, this is amazing," that like whatever. And I'm like, there's very few. There's a handful of people that were there right at the beginning, and you're one of them that like have seen it from the beginning. Because even back then, I didn't know what this was going to be like. I didn't know. Neither one of us.
Yeah.
And so all credit to Mandy, obviously being the owner. She's like done all the things, make the decisions, done all the stuff. You guys have worked closely together. I've just helped as well, like in the process of making.
I knew she would do it, and we talked about this. Right. This is stuff we've said over and over and over. I mean, I talked to your mom, I talked to your dad when they came in, I talked to you about this. I knew it would work. I knew this would work. My only concern with this location was, like I said, the steps. But you got it here, and you made this happen. It wasn't really me. I just kind of gave you some direction here and there. But you guys did a great job, and I'm very proud of you both for sticking it out. And you have all kinds of things. I mean, people don't realize how difficult it is with health inspections, township, zoning. Like it's crazy, but if you stick it out, it works. So. Good job.
We appreciate it.
Good job.
There are very few people that on some tough times that I had that encouraged and motivated and said, you can do this, and you were one of them. So we appreciate that. We're very grateful. I'll give you I'll give you a paper towel or something later after this. But we are super, super grateful.
All right.
We're grateful that you're here, hanging out with us, chatting more about it, learning more about coffee. We get a lot of questions about it, so it's always nice to be able to give you the outlet to share more about our coffee.
Well, if you get any questions, please throw them at me. We can always answer people's questions by email or
frequently asked questions.
But
podcast. Next time we'll get into Hangman and how we,
That's a story. That's another podcast right there.
Yeah.
Zip it up, Hangman.
Just the Hangman podcast.
He came over to my house one night, and we were having some adult beverages, and I said, "Hey, you guys want to play Hangman?" And they looked at me like I was crazy. I was like,
I was all for it. I mean, I'm all for a good. You reintroduced me.
It was also like 10 p.m. at that
This
point.
is what people in their 50s do. I mean, come on.
Play Hangman. We have that. So here's the
Beer
lineup.
pong. You know, it's like
all the really cool things. This is the lineup for the next podcast. We can talk about the decaf process. We can talk about importing process and the fun
so
you
I'm
have with your
coming to
import.
do more podcasts
if you want to, and then we can talk about.
Sure, put me on the spot here. Yeah, I'll do it.
We didn't even get into talking about your beers that you have your coffee
Or my wine.
or your wine.
Clover Hill Winery.
Oh my
with
gosh,
the coffee and
it's
the
true.
thing. The
Saucony Brewing,
Yes.
Fegley in Allentown and
so
Bethlehem.
all of your little business collaborations with them and making your coffee into all of that. So definitely lots of options.
A lot of collaborations.
I know.
lot
We
of
talked more about the
collaboration.
coffee this time.
Yeah.
And Mike has always told me, he's like, Pablo, I don't sell coffee. I sell my personality.
Yeah.
We didn't even dive into that.
I think
Oh,
we
boy.
did. He fired Linda like 3 times. So
At least 3 times in this podcast.
Poor Linda.
you have a great team. You have a great
I can't wait to
operation.
sit her down. I'm going to be like, Linda, this is a mandatory education. You have to sit and
Yes.
watch this podcast from beginning to end. And she's going to hear her name pop up 3 times, and she's going
Yeah.
to be like, what?
Yeah. She's fired each time.
You know what? I just love Linda.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my whole team. Sarah, I mean, every single one.
Yeah.
Brienne, they're all good. Dynasty and Jamie and Mitchell. I have
Shout out to all
you
of
know,
them.
a shout out to every single one of them. I mean, I'm very blessed to have the entire team like you do. I mean, it's
Yeah.
they
They're a great
are
team,
what
too.
make your business. And
100%.
That's right.
you know, that's like they're all behind me.
Yep.
You know.
Couldn't do it without all of them. That's for sure. So thanks for hanging out with us. Stay tuned for all those other fun tips, fun podcast episodes.
Coffee up, people.
Next time, we'll do a podcast at the roaster. There you go.
Episode 4. Thanks for joining. We'll see you.
That's really good. That was really good.